I want to tell you what was happening to the Earth during the transition from the second to the third millennium. A lot of the things I am going to talk about I have experienced. A period in time can be thought of as a path, the Earth's spiral path. For the Earth to enter the third millennium, it had to pass through a black hole. A black hole is a cluster of worlds with primitive evil. Preparations for the transition began in the early part of that century before 1917. In the past time periods up to 1000 years at transitions, civilizations were destroyed as bodies were amorphous and could not properly protect souls from blackness. New civilizations had to start progress practically from scratch at an accelerated pace. Transition from the first to the second millennium passed together with people, but with great losses of bodies and light souls, set by the fact that there were few earthlings and people just hid in forests and steppes. The bodies of the people of our area are more dense than the Lemurians and Atlantis. And I think that in order to move into the first millennium, the bodies will be modified too. Already I am seeing children with somewhat different internal organs, more synthetic and able to process organelles, partly cellophane kidneys, for example, that can process more polluted waters without harming themselves. In the future, most likely people's bodies will be similar to cyborgs from movies. They will be more dense, like a thicker protective armor for souls. So before the Russian Revolution of 1917, preparations for the transition began. The Earth was approaching a black hole and there were reptilian worlds on the body. The higher powers did not fight with them. They gave them the Earth at their mercy, and technogenically the Earthlings were not ready to fight with reptiles. Reptiles have enveloped the Earth and Moon, enslaving them. Reptiles began to be born in human bodies. Reptiles, feeling their power, began to start wars. World War First, World War Second. They needed the human energy of fear, pain, terror in mass, murder and torture. A lot of this released. Why did heaven allow all this to happen? During the war, the reptilians were energized and were able to survive the passage through to the black hole with the Earthlings, withstanding their onslaught of much stronger foul beasts, which could penetrate through the bodies of people, eat their souls, and go to the light worlds. Also in the earth were born a lot of primitive souls, which are mentioned on the channel. Souls of worms, spiders, snakes. Such souls were taken the best, by type the king of worms, spiders, snakes, and for the crowd their more primitive servants were taken. Now primitive souls can be absorbed in the bodies of children with congenital cerebral palsy. Such souls lack the intelligence and strength to even control a human body. Lots of primitive souls in Africa. The population of the earth was also artificially increased also to create a human hilt. During the transition, the ratio of black souls to light ones was 70% to 30%, but 30% of the light souls are almost all warrior angels. These are souls with the ability to destroy black energy. In the period of the 90s, there was a surge of musical talent. The music sounded from everywhere, beautiful, bright, because there is a kind of evil that is paralyzed, neutralized by the sounds of singing, the sounds of musical instruments. Every nation has its own folk instruments. During this period, the Earth passed through a layer of evil spirits in a black hole, which is neutralized by music. This is a protective energy grid on Earth. Now evil spirits cannot pass through from outer space. But when passing through a black hole is burnt up. At the end of August 1990, I was encircled a mountain lake in a boarding house. A mudflow has descended from the mountains. Nothing terrible happened, but I looked at this water with horror. At that moment, the protective grid of the earth began to burn and a breakthrough of primitive evil spirits began. All the time I often had dreams in different parts of the world, streams of dirty water with sewage. These were the breakthroughs of the evil ones. The main breakthrough was in the Moscow region from May to September 2005. The evil one who broke through is the most terrible. It was like a yellow-brown tash wrapping around the body, sucking it out, and mostly it was in the dream. This time I opened my eyes after my sleep and saw myself standing in front of me. It is how the evil sucked out bodies and took their form. The protective mechanism of the body was triggered and there was terrible insomnia. On the steps could see people with yellow faces as after hepatitis. During this period there were many deaths allegedly from alcohol poisoning. One patient who came to me for treatment said that he had buried his brother at that time and their body was not like a brother, but like an alien, yellow with an elongated skull. In the period of transition, the earth essentially passed into the eye of the needle, having turned energetically inside out, passing in pieces, stretching out in lengths. That is why before the transition the Soviet Union started to collapse. A large country, in fact, was a big piece of land which would not go through the eye of a needle. Not to mention the confrontation with America and China a market was needed. And the Union was formed to resist the reptilians in World War II. It was impossible to keep the country anyway, so the souls in the bodies were a living shield. The black souls, the grey ones, the bright ones. The black souls ate the cosmic blackness more. They lapped the lacked energy, and they worked hard on black magic, destroy the energy protection of lighter souls and pumping the energy making spoilage. As one black magician said, she was short of air, she could not breathe, and she had one goal: to go to the cemetery and spoil someone. Many Homelion souls, it is when the soul is half black and half white, could not stand it and began to do black magic and go downhill in life. As a healer, grandmother I now used to say, they had accepted the seal of devil. So from 1990 to 2017, the earth was in darkness without a security grid and without energy. The main adapters were on the moon. That's the principle. There is a ship next to the earth with concentrated light energy, feeding portions to the moon. The moon is a distribution station. Each of us is connected to it, receiving the subtle energy to live from there. Since the moon was under the reptiles, everyone had a lack of energy. Of course, the reptiles provided energy, but at a minimum, just so that the earthlings would not die, and the concentrate from the ship was also given at a minimum, so that the reptiles get less. When the earth passed through the black hole is stretched over the period from 1990 to 2016. Ships with concentrated light energy were able to approach the Earth, and the cleansing of the Earth from the streams of energetic dirt spilled on it during the passage of the black hole began. The restoration of the protective grid began. This issue was dealt with by a creature named Crayon. He is not an angel or a demon. He can be called a grey creature. Creature is huge, the size of an Earth spaceship. And Crayon was originally created for such purpose. There are other solar-like systems in space. That is, ships, fragments of the protective energy grid to the Earth's atmosphere, and Crayon welded and assembled them. In February 2017, the work was finished and Crayon left for other planets. He is not in the Earth field now. The only ones left are his disciples, the so-called Drays, who monitor the integrity of the protective grid. They can make contact with the contactors and brown wash them. Before the installation of the protective grid, starting from May 2016, all souls on Earth were disinfected, that is, they left the body, but the energy code connecting the body with the soul was not broken, and they were immersed in the purification system inside the Earth. At the time, bodies were controlled by inanimate programs or souls of Atlantis Lemurians. At the time, I had a dream that crowds of people were standing in an iron corridor in front of sliding doors with a guard. Disinfection was necessary because everyone was infected with primitive black microorganisms from the black hole. In February 2017, the disinfection was finished. Everyone returned to their bodies and the safety net was started. In February 2018, it was fully operational. Has become significantly easier because until 2017 I had patients come to me and felt like they were crawling from their last strength and literally falling on my hands. What is happening now? Now the reptiles in human bodies are trying to stay in power and start World War III. After the transition, they are also exhausted and they need the energy realized by violent death. But the Earth is now under the control of a higher power. The reptiles will not leave the Earth completely. They have been assigned a digital planet which completely replicates the Earth. In fact, it was created by reptilians themselves with the hope that the light souls will be gradually pumped there and set up a concentration camp for them after death. But only black souls will be sent there for conservation for the transition to the fourth millennium. Very primitive black souls after the death of the physical body will go to the center of the Earth to be burnt and replenish oil reserves, or to replenish the electromagnetic component of the Earth. They are of no value. Such souls can be downloaded from primitive worlds at any time. I think the future will not be oil or gas, but other fuels based on the Earth's magnetic emissions. Light souls who have passed the transition, who have endured survived, who have not long had blackness, envy, anger after the death of the physical body will go to their light world. Someone else will be born on Earth to gain experience, mental strength. Now the task of normal people is to restore their psyche maximum health and just live and enjoy life. We enjoyed survived. In the next 1,000 years on Earth I do not see paradise, but a certain balance of good and evil will be restored. There will be occasional both to feed the reptiles in the digital planet prison, and that the Oslins have not lost the skills of warfare, because we are on the border with the black votes and anything fly from there, and I think it does because the military doesn't tell everything. In 1990 personality saw an alien ship hovering over the mountains in Kyrgyzstan gray in color, translucent similar to earthly spaceships and shape closer to a fish. That's it I have described the difficult period. It is easy to talk about it now, but at the time it was very scary. The death of the physical body is not scary, but at the time there was a threat of death of the soul.